And let's go ahead and do the screen share. So this
why is it all
different experience? Yeah, so go up, down, up, the green one. Perfect. Let's go ahead and share the correct screen. And let's minimize this because we're going to assume that this has worked. Because I actually see me at this point. And one more time.
All right, hopefully we're in this time.
At 7 minutes past the hour, and Las Priest is saying he's got something, and I actually see it in the broadcast. So my name is Charles Sterling. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling from. I'm sitting next to Reid Haven, who actually helps run the local user group. He actually goes out and teaches Power BI at the local college, goes out and does lots of training and consulting in addition to that. We delivered a dashboard in an hour just before Christmas. It's actually our
dashboard of the day, yeah.
Dashboard an hour we did at the user group, didn't we?
We did the hour and then we did the full day thing.
That's right, we did both.
Yep.
So me and Reid do lots of stuff together. We have a lot of fun. And Sandy decided that a dashboard an hour would be a fun thing to do in the next 42 minutes. So we just stole 8 minutes from you.
Yep.
And we're gonna go ahead and have you introduce yourself like you did before, but again.
Cool. All right, so I'll do a little bit of an elevator pitch this time. As Chuck has said, my name is Reid Havens. I'm a Excel and Power BI consultant in the Washington State area and Redmond. I work primarily under my company, Havens Consulting. I also am a principal consultant and blog author for Power Pivot Pro. Both are things that I do a lot of amazing work for. And I also teach at Bellevue College, and sometimes I guest lecture at the University of Washington teaching business intelligence courses. With that being said, today we're going to do the dashboard in an hour, which is a great package that Microsoft provides. It kind of gives you the rundown, really good 35,000 foot level overview of all of the a lot of the Power BI features. So we'll kind of go through two sections. We're going to go through the offline portion, which will be creating and authoring a report in Power BI Desktop. That'll be grabbing the data and bringing it in. Once we've done that, we're going to take it, put it online onto powerbi.com, and then we will make a dashboard out of that and explore some of the features that we have with the online portions of that. All right, now with that being said, I will go ahead and have us kind of hop into that. Unless you had anything else, Chuck.
No, you
cool.
You get at
it. Cool, awesome. So was the in the Hangout is the dyad package provided as a curiosity?
I did not see it, so we're gonna have to assume that we're gonna need to get that back.
Can you paste that in as a link to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Are you good to go? Cool. Okay, so Chuck will be providing a link to you guys, and the recording for this will also be available, but we're going to take this content pack, which is designed to provide a report for the Chief Marketing Officer. So this is an individual who basically wants to be able to look both at the metrics and reports that we have for the company itself, and that's Van Artstel. And we want to, as the marketing officer, we want to be able to not only look at what the company's performance and metrics have done, but we also want to compare that to other organizations and see how we're kind of doing against the industry. So that's the report we're going to be building in Power BI Desktop.
In the script I'm providing, or the final image I'm giving actually is before Christmas, and we are updating it, but we just don't have an update for you guys yet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the content pack that he'll be sending out will also have a PDF in there that has the exact steps in here as needed. So even if you're not following along today, you can absolutely repeat everything that I'm doing later on by yourself. One of the great options, lots of visuals and screenshots to go in there. So easily repeatable by any of the content consumers. All right, so I'm going to start with Power BI Desktop. For those of you that want to get it, it's available for free on powerbi.com, 32 or 64-bit. Always install 64-bit if you can. So we're going to go ahead and grab some data out of here. Super easy to import. We have that right now sitting in the dyad, or the dashboard an hour folder on the C drive in an Excel file, and we're going to suck that into the data model in Power BI Desktop. So it's that guy. We're going to go ahead and, there we go, get data. I'm going to select Excel. To my C drive. And I'm going to go to a folder, DIAH for dashboard in an hour.
And that's the zip file I just sent you guys.
Yep. Yeah, and the easiest way is just to extract it to the C drive, which will show in one of the first steps in there. We're going to select data and grab this guy. Hit open. There we go. And you'll notice that here now we have something called the navigator window that opens up, and it lists the 4 tables or sheets that are in the file right here. And the really cool thing is as you click each one of these, you'll notice a little preview window opening up here that kind of shows what each of the tables looks like as you switch between them. It does give you an option to refresh if you need to at any point if it's not working. But we're going to go ahead and import all of these. And at the bottom, it gives us 3 options, exiting out, which is the cancel one, and then either editing or loading. If you select the load one, that will immediately load the data directly into the data model. But there are a couple minor transformations that we want to do first. So we're going to go ahead and hit edit, which will take us to the query editor section, Power Query for those of you familiar with it from Excel. And we're going to do a couple of minor transformations in there. So we're going to hit that. There we go. All right, and as you can see under queries, it's added all of our tables over on the far left side. In each one of these has a table preview and also something under the query settings over on the right. There's something called applied steps, which is one of my favorite features of Power Query. For anybody who's ever maybe worked with code or in SQL or anything else, changes and iterations and additions as you're transforming data are often not really easy to identify. This thing has a step for every single thing that you do. You'll notice that when we imported all of these, and let's use date as an example, it automatically added 4 steps in where it has the source from the Excel file. Navigation is the table that it navigated to for date. It automatically identified that the first row are headers, so it promoted them. And then finally it changed the data type to what it suspected that each of these were. Especially if you notice right above date, there's a little icon for each one of these. For a calendar icon, if it identifies it as a date type, numerical, characters, etc., all of those are automatically assigned. By default, I believe it uses the first few hundred rows to look at it from the data, and then it best determines what data type that is. However, in our date table, for this demo purpose, we do not need the month column, and that's something easy to remove. So we're going to go ahead and right-click on here. And among the options we have from the dropdown, there is a remove column. So go ahead and select that. And we'll make sure not to hit remove other columns because that will delete the other ones except for this one. And remove that. And if for the keynote, if you look over in the corner, you'll notice that it added the step automatically on the right side. So now there is a remove column step. And not only are these listed here, but if you actually click through them, it will show whatever previous step was. So it's really great for backtracking if you ever come back to your workbook later. So that's all we really need to do in here. So we're going to go ahead and close out of the window. Where's my mouse? There it is. All right. So you see that there's an option to close and apply. And with most of these, if you just hit the button at the top, because you'll see a very faint little kind of dividing line, might be hard for you to pick up, but this will automatically close and apply it. However, if you hit the drop down below it, you'll have 3 options. Closing will just keep all the changes that you've done in here, but it won't load your data. Apply will keep this window open and apply any steps that you've just now done. And then close and apply does both. And this is the one that we want to select.
And with big data sets, this may take quite a while, right, Reid?
Depending on the connection speed, it could. I've watched this thing spit out, 5, 10 million rows really quickly. As long as you have a good, strong connection. Granted, there's multiple bottlenecks that can occur, but connected to a powerful Azure server, it downloads instantly.
There you go.
And then with direct connections as well, you don't actually even need to download data, so then it's just instantaneous. And those are also amazing. All right, so you'll see that our table.
Oh, so Sandy wants to know, can you roll back those steps? And Sandy, I wish you caught that back when we were in the Power Query window. So go ahead.
Yeah. There is a way to like this version of a Control Z, so to speak. Okay, I did the remove column. I actually don't want that. Like, it's really easy just to hit a little X button right next to this and just delete it. And that my month thing that I had deleted.
Or undeleted.
Or undeleted, yeah.
Undelete, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And added it back. The one thing that I wish there was a Control Z for, like if I accidentally deleted a step, it would be great if I could undo that.
Yeah.
But I could also just add it back in. So like, wait, I just deleted that. Actually, no, I'm gonna flip flop again. I really want this back. So I can just add that step right back in.
So the meta point here, Sandy, is it's actually not changing the underlying data. It's actually changing the transformation steps applied to the data.
Yeah, anything in here has not changed the data yet until you apply it. So you can go through and make any transformations you want. If you realize like, oh, I did something that doesn't look right, I can undo it. It's very easy to switch back and forth and test it in this environment, and nothing will actually change until you hit close and apply. Right. Yeah, so the same tables we have are over here on the left. You will notice the ribbon at the top has 3 main sections, a very similar style to Excel or any other Office product. Where we have Home, View, and Modeling. And you notice 3 little icons over here on the side. This is the report view. I like to call this area the canvas. It's very similar to a PowerPoint area to work with, where unlike Excel that kind of has an infinite distance to go, either up or down, you are limited to objects you can put within this space. This is where we'll be making our report, the report that we'll be making for Van Artstall, and all the metrics will be going here. I'll quickly hit these other 2 and come back to this. The data view is similar to the data model in Excel. This just lets you view the tables themselves. And then the connection view is, again, very similar to the data model. Now you'll notice it automatically already created 2 connections for us. It understood that sales connects to geo by zip, and sales also connects to product or product view. However, it did not make a connection for the date table. So we want to go ahead and do that. And that can actually be found on any of these tabs under Home, and let's look at up here called Manage Relationships, where it shows what our first 2 relationships are here, but we also want to add a new one because it did not auto-detect that. We want to connect our sales table to our date table, and we're going to use date and date. We can leave all these settings by default. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And there we go. And
do you find that works better for you than just dragging the actual columns themselves onto the other tables?
I think it's kind of it's almost a personal preference. If you want to do more advanced settings going into managed relationships, you can set the 1-to-1, maybe to 1, all these other things. But in general, 90% of the time when I'm making a new connection, I just drag and drop it, which is super handy. So yeah, if this wasn't here already, very quickly do that. You can just select from the sales table. And I always, as a default, coming from the SQL world, I drag from my fact table to my dimension tables, because that will often determine the direction of the relationship. So there we go. Same thing. And it did the exact same thing as if I had made it in here, and it still keeps it in there. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yeah, all right. So with that being done, we can get into the portion where we actually design the report layout. There you go. Sure. All right. So we have a nice blank canvas. We as artists get to design the report that we're wanting to use and give back to the CMO. So the first thing that we want to do, I would like to get a slice of 2016 data for this report. So we're going to go ahead and create a slicer and throw it onto the canvas. And again, there's many paths to Home. If you want to create a new object on this, you can hit the little checkbox next to date, which will also add it, as you notice, to the page. Or sorry, year is the one that I want. It will add it onto the canvas. However, you can also, just like we did earlier with the relationship, you can drag and drop any of these columns and it will create a new visual. by default, it does think like you're wanting to make something out of it. So it's going to try to go to a clustered column chart. The one that we want to use, though, is the slicer guy over here. It's in the bottom left. Actually, let's see. I can still get zoom into that corner. So yeah, right. It's
Zoom into the rescue.
In that spot. So let me just turn that back on. I'm going to use a little tool that kind of sort of works to show you which I'm talking about. Aha. Okay. So right here. That's the slicer button that we want to use. That's going to turn our object from here into any slice that we want.
Manuel was actually asking a question earlier in the relationships, and I'm sorry I didn't grab it, Manuel. If I set a double filter direction, a relationship that goes both ways, when creating the relationships, what kind of problems can I have in the report itself?
Well, some of the issues, I personally try to avoid many too many. I don't have too many scenarios that use them. It's usually a very unique business requirement, but filtering now goes both ways. We're generally with a one-to-many relationship. Any data that is coming from, say, the dimension table, the one that has the distinct one, will filter back down. Let me point out on this to make it easier. Yeah, so right now, data from here can filter the sales table because that's the mini to the one. If this becomes a bidirectional or one-to-one relationship and you turn on the bidirectional, they can filter each other. So if slices from the sales table can filter the date table and vice versa, and that can cause some interesting caveats.
You'll see reports with big X's in them because there's no data as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So he'll go out and choose a product sales that obviously only exists in one date, and you'll have other tables that don't have anything on that date, and they'll just show up as a bunch of X's.
Yep.
So you really want to avoid that at all possible. Many to many will just get you in all kinds of problems.
Yeah, I know there's some unique scenarios where people have multiple fact tables that need some separate table to be able to join them together in a fancy way. And but I would say that's like less than 0.1% of business scenarios that I've encountered. Most of the time, this star schema for those who are familiar with database design, those usually work very well. And at worst, just a snowflake. Cool. So we've turned this into a slicer. By default, it's going to try to give us a sliding scale. But what we want to do is we want to create a list. I'm going to go ahead and pre-filter my page 2016. So what this will do now that we have this as a slicer, any other object that I'm making will now default to the year 2016. I'm going to do that. I'm going to resize this over here. For anybody who has the PDF open, I'm basically creating the report page that's on page 9 right now, and we're stepping through that, which we'll eventually publish online. All right, so that's done. We can start with the next section. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab month name over here on date. I'm just going to drag this out. And what I want to create is I want to create the line and clustered column chart. Is this guy right there. I'm going to create a second object. Go ahead and select that. And there's nothing on the chart at the moment because it doesn't have any data. There's a couple sections that need to be filled out. We need column values and we need line values. So from that, we can grab that from the sales table. So I'm going to go ahead and get revenue. I'm going to pop that right into column values. Okay, we're starting to get something. Now units, I want to be able to compare revenue and units to each other. So that's where the stack column comes in. And what this does, for those unfamiliar, the stacked combo chart provides two axes. The main axis over here on the left is where the columns are, and then the values, because you can see there's 5 million compared to 9,000. If we put these together as columns, they wouldn't match up. This would be extremely small. So this allows us to get a correlation between the two and see how they are related to each other. Now, if you're looking a little closely, you notice that it kind of seems a bit incongruent with the lines and the fact that, oh, okay, well, clearly right now, these are sorted alphabetically. That's not how we want it. We want, yeah, I mean, like nobody likes that. It's not at all a trend like, it's awful. So, you know, I could figure out some fancy way to do concatenation, throw some things in there, change to a date type, do other things to get it to work, or I can go the really easy route and simply sort it by another column, which is a wonderful feature that this has. So if you go under, where is it? Should be up here, isn't it? Right? Sort by
column. You need to highlight the column, I think.
Thank you. The first step, definitely, select the column, and it should be under, there we go, yep. So you notice that under modeling, there is the sort by column option. Hit that. It's there, okay. And what we want to, right now it's sorting by the month name, which is text, and the only way it knows how to sort text is alphabetically. However, we have a separate column that we can sort with called month number. Select that. Now, because it's a month number, it's numerical, smallest to highest, it will now sort this correctly. And as an extra added bonus, we're never actually going to use month number for anything. That's not really needed to be client facing. So let's just go ahead and hide this. Get that out of view. There we go. Perfect. Now we got a chart that looks good and is functioning the way we'd like to. Another question?
No. Chris said just blared, but I don't know what blared is. Blurred?
Blurred? It might have just blurred. Okay, it could have been pixelation from connection.
Okay, Chris, we don't know what blared is, but we're going to insert blurred, and we're all better now.
Cool. All right. So now that we got that, let's go ahead and also throw an object in that compares Van Arstel's. Arstel? Yeah, it's really hard for me to roll that off the tongue. I wish it was DS. We're going to compare the company's performance to other companies in the area. So, and we're going to do a tree map of that. I'll show you another way too. You can also, again, you can start with a visualization rather than starting with a field. If you wanted to just create a new visualization, you can just click that. It creates just kind of a black and white, completely empty visual, and now we can start throwing things into here. For this one, we're going to go ahead and grab manufacturer, and throw that into the group. I'm going to throw revenue into values. There we go. Now you can see each one of these is divided up, and it uses revenue to determine the size of it, starting from left to right, largest to least. It applies the manufacturers for it, and it also, again, is filtered to 2016. Now, there's a really clever feature that this does too. If you'll notice, if I select any of these visuals, I'm going to click Van Arstel. I'm just going to go to Arstel. So yeah, watch this chart on the left. You'll see how it kind of grayed out. So this is a built-in cross-filtering function that it has that's native to Power BI desktop. All of these visuals can act as a slicer if you want. A personal practice that I like to do, I often will build these intentionally this way, and then this saves you from needing to add a specific slicer on the page. So if you're building a report, which again has limited real estate space, and you're just like, you don't quite have the room to stick a dedicated manufacturer slicer in there, if you already have a visual for manufacturer, that can act as your slicer already for the rest of the data on the page. You don't need a separate slicer with a list of manufacturers. So it's a nice kind of clever way to maximize the value and use what limited space you have on each reporting page. Just as long as you enlighten the consumers of the reports that, hey, by the way, this is both a visual and a slicer. But it's very cool. Same thing if I click April over here, you'll see April's data automatically fade in for all of the different manufacturers on this section. All right. I'm going to create a couple more now. I'm going to go ahead and create a visual that will represent sales by segment. That's done. There we go. Yeah, if these are selected, by the way, to remove the filtering, just click them one more time, or click on the white space behind them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab segment, drag this out. This one actually, because it was text, it always tries to guess the best visual based on the value that's in here. But it always will default to something, usually either the chart by default or the table. I want to create a donut chart, and we're going to go ahead again and grab some revenue, toss you in here. There we go. Make this a little bit bigger so you can read the letters. And I will point out one thing quickly for for some of these. So with any of these, similar to Excel, you can turn on data labels. So I think those are useful. So let's just quickly point that out. You'll notice for any visual here, all of these will always have 3 little buttons over on this side. This is basically where the data goes. This will be how you format it. And then if applicable, there's a lot of cool insights that go into here as well. But we're going to go into the painter option and that guy. And we're going to add some data labels to this very quickly. It's going to be under here. And right now it's showing data label category. I wanted to show category and value. So right there in the middle. There we go. So that's a little better. You can also hover, by the way, any of these visuals. When you hover, you'll notice that it does show the values underneath it. But if you want it innately visible without needing to do a mouse hover, that's one way to quickly add it.
And if you want to show more on the mouse hover, you can actually do that in the tooltip on the what is that? The column trough, the first one.
Yeah. So right now, all I have is revenue in here. It's showing revenue. All right. I want to see units though too. I'm going to throw units into there. Now when I hover, you see it has revenue in units. So that's a great way to, like, you can add 10, 20. You can add a whole bunch to the tooltip section, which allows you to show a lot of data that previously would not be able to fit on a single visual, or without needing to have a dedicated table next to it to show the rest. All right, we're 2/3 of the way there. We got one visual left. Map visuals. Everybody loves those, right? People love map visuals. So let's throw one of those on here. And that will be our 4th chart before we do a little cleanup and design.
Rather than show the map in there, can you grab that column and drag it over? Because I think it's smart enough to go out and say, I'm going to give you a map. So drag like country over or something like that.
I think, what did we use? We used
state.
Yep, it's state. So let's see if it recognizes that.
Let's see if Chuck's got it right. Go map, yes.
There you go. Nicely done. All right, and you can see that there's not much data in it at the moment. You see the 3 dots because there are 3 states that we have. We have California, we have Texas, and we have New York. Let's go ahead and add in some revenue to this on size. And you notice that they get a little bit bigger. And what else did they throw into there? Let's divide these up a bit. I mean, we're starting to see some data, but I want a bit of breakouts among these. So let's grab segment, throw that under legend. There we go. So some of you are probably like, okay, it's kind of cool, but you have like 95% real estate space and nearly no visuals on that. Recently, they now allowed you to adjust the size of the bubbles, which is a very welcome feature, which I think makes the map a lot more useful when you have data that's this spread out.
A super popular ask for the team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's over under the Format Painter tool, and it's called Bubbles. And let's go ahead and, let's see, 20s, nope, I can still go better. Let's do like 50.
We like big bubbles.
Right, there you go. See, nice and large, and allows it to be seen a lot better. And fully interactive. You can also zoom in if there's more, a little too much zooming. There you go. If there was more data available or more granularity, like say zip, that you could throw into there. Show that off quickly. So if I throw zip underneath state, let's see if this works. Might take a second to populate because there's a lot of zips. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so it also recognizes zip. A little bit too many zips because right now it's trying to populate all of it. But the great thing with the location up here, as you bring in other layers, it will allow you in the corner right here to drag up and down. It's glitching a bit because there's a ton of zips, which is a pretty granular thing to show on the map. But in general, the hierarchies, if you have multiple ones, will always show up right there in the upper left-hand corner of your visual, allowing you to have drill functionality, which is very handy. All right, so we'll leave that as is. The one practice that I'll show you is legend. I typically don't like to have right next to the title. It's a nice, easy switch under formatter at the top, and I'm just going to throw that at bottom center. There we go. Separates it a bit better. Okay, 2 things we're going to throw onto here. A best practice I always like to have is if you can and are able, throw on the company's logo somewhere on the report page. It helps to just identify what it is. The corporations usually will appreciate it. And also for color matching, if you go into the formatting options, it helps you to make sure that the visuals are complementary to that usually. So
have an entire webinar on just colors.
Chuck does, yes.
And using backgrounds and images.
Yeah, because you'll notice that for all of that, anybody inclined, Chuck does have a great post and video about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just added this, which is switch themes, that allows you to import color schemes. But I digress. All right, so image. I love that it still remembers where I imported this last time. If you haven't gone to there, it is in Dia and where is it in? Was it? Yeah, data, and there is Van Arnstel logo right in there. I'm gonna go ahead and import that.
If I can just interrupt here, Manuel asks if you said granularity and what you mean by that.
Yeah, so granularity, it's level of detail. So in a standard, let's say like geography hierarchy, we have country and then state, city, zip code. So there's multiple zip codes within a city, multiple cities within a state. So granularity is in reference to just things that are further down in terms of breakouts of the data, however deep that can go. And that can be various hierarchies. That can also be, divisions of a company, and within that division, categories of a product, and then product IDs, and then SKUs for versions of that product. Yeah, it's just further breakouts down the rabbit hole.
And that map was actually literally trying to display 100,000 or so
yes.
data points on top of each other. So another problem with that particular visualization that we're attempting.
Yeah, and if you are interested in really cool map visuals, there is Power Maps that is still built into Excel that does a pretty good job of heavy lifting when you are trying to populate thousands of data points across like a 3D map. This is catching up a lot in terms of its features, but yeah, heavy lifting custom map stuff. Just look up Power Map for Excel online, and you should find a lot of resources about that.
Next week, Bing Maps gets updated, and then of course we've got the Esri maps that have a ton of different overlays.
Yeah.
Population, pollution, CO2 consumption, blah blah blah. Okay.
Okay. Cool. Last thing we're going to add is a little title right up here. It's still trying to process. Sometimes that just gets stuck there, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another reason why we're actually updating it this coming up week.
All right, and we're going to call this page 2016 Performance. And for those who didn't catch that, sorry, I didn't point it out, right next to the image button on Home, there is also just a little guy for text box, and that just creates a free-floating text box. You'll notice too that depending on where the visual is, the little formatter tool automatically relocates itself to wherever is most convenient. One of those things that you don't really notice, but I think is a cool little design feature. A little bit too big. Let's just make it about right there. Perfect. There you go. I can do a bit more customizing and formatting and stuff, but for sake of time, let's just go ahead and call this good. We're going to save this as our personal Van Arnstel report. We'll be importing a separate one onto powerbi.com, but this one you can just save offline for yourself. So I'm just going to save this to desktop. My Van Arnstel report. There you go. All right. So we're done with that. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to hop over to powerbi.com. I would show you the login for this, but it's with the about 8 different Power BI accounts that I have, it sometimes glitches. So I'm going to default to being logged in where I know it will stay connected. But for those of you familiar, this is the default workspace. There is an availability in the PDF provided to you. It shows you how to sign up for a temporary free account that will let you do the publishing and all that as part of the training for this. This will be the landing page the first time you create one, because right now we don't have any reports or dashboards or anything. If you click the little button over here, you'll notice the whole workspace that we have, which has all the stuff that we're going to be populating, but we don't have any data yet for it. One thing we do want to do, though, is I want to create a template dashboard for the data to land into before we import it. You don't have to do this, but this just saves you a couple of other steps of renaming. So I'm just going to get a dashboard ready for my Van Arnstel report. I call this Performance. I did that just by hitting the little plus button to create a dashboard. And you notice a big bright yellow button down at the bottom called Get Data. Let's select that. and I'm going to select File. And it gives you a few options to import it from. There's a lot of resources to grab. If you have the file hosted somewhere online, you can use OneDrive. We're just going to do a local file. And I'm going to go and navigate to my C drive.
Put it on your desktop.
Well, that's that one. This is the one that you're actually importing because it has a second tab that we didn't create. So we're going to import from the dyad folder and reports van article performance. And the reason we're importing this one, you'll see in a second. I'm going to do that. There we go. And now you'll notice that it automatically put a .pbix kind of little link into my dashboard. I'm not going to use that. Chuck, have you actually ever known?
No.
Okay. No. Like I wasn't sure if I was maybe just unfamiliar with how those are used. I've never used one. Okay. Is that going away then?
No, because it actually gives people a pathway to get to where the report was, or where the report is. So it's a visual clue that you need to go here to do stuff.
So it's just another link
to this.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. So you notice 3 things have happened. There's my dashboard here. Well, 2 other things got added in. There's the report and the actual data itself sitting here. Anything new has a little star next to it, just indicating you have not gone to it. We're going to go ahead and go to the performance section. And you'll notice there's a couple things that it looks relatively similar to what I created. However, it does have a second page, which is performance against competitors. So that's why we imported this one. It already has this created for us to pin a few things from, but without us needing to actually create this just within the time frame of the hour. So there's a couple little changes we're going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and hit this button at the top called Edit Reports. If I select that, you'll notice, okay, hey, this looks really similar to Power BI Desktop, and like that is true. In theory, if you wanted, you could, do all your report design and everything else in here. It can do about 90% of what Power BI Desktop can do. It does not have the Power Query or the query editor options, but any visualization customizations can all be done within this.
And the relationships is not here.
Yeah, thank you. And the relationships is not here as well. So like the data model design and data import doesn't happen online. It's just the report customization. And any changes you make, they have also just recently had the option now to, there you go. You can now download back out the PBIX file. So if I make a bunch of changes here and I know that I want to like save that as an offline version again, I can download the file after any changes I've made online, which previously was not an easy way to do. So that's been a great recent feature. All right, so we want to go ahead. I want to change these page names from that. I don't think it's very user-friendly to have them called page 1 and 2.
Definitely an anti-pattern to have them named page 1 and page 2.
Exactly. So let's just call this 2016 performance. I'm going to go ahead and call page 2.
So Slack0000 wants to know, can you create measures using the online version? No, Slack, that actually gets back to the data model question. You just can't really manipulate the underlying data set. You can bring in, but that's what it is. That's what you have.
There is one great feature to point out for is, as time goes on, more and more people are going to start building these reports connected to Tabular. I don't have the time to explain exactly what those are, but it's basically a connected data set. So there's no local model. Historically, you could not build a custom measure against that, but that's now, I believe it's live now for the public version, correct? You can now,
if it's not live, it's coming next week.
Yeah, exactly. So you can now write, like if you have a report you want to connect to a live, like a tabular cube, you can now write your own custom DAX measures against that for ad hoc reports.
Still in the desktop version though.
Still in the desktop version, yes, yeah. But like it's one of those things that that used to lock people completely out of that. It's been a great implementation. All right, so we got these two saved up. I'm going to go ahead and hit File and save this report. There you go. All right, that's done. There we go. Okay, so you'll also notice a couple little differences in a lot of these. One, like you can still move them around. However, there's a little new icon. I could probably zoom out on this one. Yes, I can. All right, this little guy right here. There's a little pin icon there, and also there's a little expand icon after that. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is just the pin icon. We want to start building out our desktop. or our dashboard. So let's go ahead and grab the logo. I'm going to go throw this onto Van Artstoel's performance. Pin that there. Now, if you go back to it, what you will notice, apparently I hadn't saved my changes. There we go. So it does now add on to this. So we're going to continue to build this out, but that's what the tiles go onto this page. It's going to stick you up in the corner. Really easy to resize and move. And they all have a built-in link to the report themselves. So if you do click on it, it takes you right back to the report page. So this applies to anything you pin. If I pin something from the competitors page, same thing will happen. It will go over to there, and it will return you to the page that that visual is from. So let's go ahead and pin a few more visuals. I want this guy onto there. I'm going to pin you. You'll notice that each time it gives you a little notification of where this was pinned to. Up in the corner, I want revenue as well. Revenue by segment. And I'm going to grab one from the other page, which is waterfall. Yeah, two of them. Okay, from the versus competitors tab. One of the things that our CMO is going to want to know is he really wants to be able to compare month and by year the performance differences as we've tracked the revenue. So we have a couple of time visuals here. We have sales year to date and sales last year to date. So we're going to go ahead and throw this as well. And then we're also going to grab that cool waterfall chart that we have. All right. And now we're actually going to use this little button over here, go to dashboard, which then puts us back into there. It allows us to make some cool arrangements. All right. So let's clean this up a bit. Try to arrange them a bit and snap them, but it's not really the most ideal layout at the moment. So let's get this a little sorted. I want to throw revenue over here, put the waterfall chart in that corner, and this guy, easily resize him, throw him right here. Now I'm going to stick him here. You'll notice there's a gap. Something will go here in a little bit, but I want to point out a couple cool other features that we have. And we're going to use the revenue and units thing to demo those. I should have flipped my extend. I keep scrolling to the wrong side. All right, perfect. So this guy, you'll notice there's a little option at the top called Explore. This allows you to see the data and also a lot of drill up and drill down options. So right now, this expands the chart out, which then shows the data below it. Did I? Interesting. I think I might need to edit a report. Let's try that one more time. For whatever reason, this is grayed out. Shoot. One sec.
So what Reid's expecting to see is the date is a hierarchy where he can actually drill down into the date. And I think it's because it's actually coming in as text and it actually never was changed to a date. So it doesn't know it's a hierarchy, I think is what's happening.
Yeah, that might have been the case. So at least I'll explain what the features can do. Yeah, because the same workbook did it last night. There's a section over here that allows you to drill up and drill down, which does actually break out the data really well. And it also gives you an option to then see the record. So if I can't actually show you it live, I can at least show you the visual of what this looks like. And I'll just pop this image over here to show you. There we go. So normally, if you can explore and drill down, it allows you to go into, like, say, California. And then from there, you can see all of the individual cities. And if you want to get even more see the records, which will then take you to an actual table, which will show every single individual sale for, say, San Diego, which was highlighted in this guy right here.
Oh, so a little bit different than drilling into the date, but same concept.
Yeah, I would have
drilled into the into the individual's state to get the city's state, zip code, and cities. Anyways,
correct.
We get the idea.
Yeah,
there's hierarchies, and you can drill into it.
Yep, perfect. All right. A couple other things I want to point out. So on the dashboard itself, you'll notice a really cool feature up here. Ask question about the data. I want to point out how far this thing has come along. This used to be part of, there used to be questions in Power View way back in the day. So the ancestor to Power BI Desktop Power View used to have Q&A as well. It wasn't always the best at recognizing questions. It's become very natural, and as long as you have the correct language in your data model for column names, it's really good at identifying what you are asking it. So we're going to ask it a question, which I should be 2016. Let's do this. And you notice if you click on it, it does give kind of guesstimations of what you would expect to see or what it thinks you might want to ask it in here. The question that I would like to ask it is 2016 and are still revenue. And you notice that each one of these now, this is something they added within the last, I think, 12 to 16 months. Each one of these you can actually change of what you like. I want date, year, it automatically recognizes it as that, but I can change the types. I can change to different manufacturers, or I can change to different types of variables. And if you look over in the corner, one, it does display the revenue that I'm asking it. It also gives me an option to pin this visual. I haven't made this visual. It does not exist on any of my report pages, but it is allowing me to fully pin this to the dashboard that I have. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to pin it to my existing dashboard. Go to the dashboard again. There we go. And that's what I'm going to use to fit that final puzzle piece in there. So very cool so far. Now we have like a relatively built out dashboard. So we might have a question.
Nope, all the questions are good.
All right. Cool. So another couple things that I do want to point out here. There is one thing that I actually want to point out before we hop into talking about the phone app a little bit. There's a new thing that they've added in relatively recently, which allows you to switch between web and phone. It's really nice because one of the great features of the dashboards and the reports in here is that you can consume these via mobile devices. This allows you to preview to the phone version what it would look like on those devices. And like as an example, on a report or on a dashboard, I have a lot of room. There's a lot of real estate space. Logos are fine. I don't really want this logo on. It's just it takes up too much space at the top of the phone when somebody's viewing it. I want to get rid of that. And it's really nice is I've unpinned this. It still is going to stay on the web view, but it's now removing that logo from the mobile view, clearing up space. And you can do that with any of the objects. This was only put in recently, a very handy feature when you're trying to create a clean interface from the mobile app. So I will point out a few other things of how to share content with anybody. You will notice that there is a share option at the top. You've created this. I want to get this to the other people in my network. So selecting that does allow you to enter an email address and then alert recipients and then create a group or anything else if you want to distribute this out. And then finally, I will point out kind of the workspace area. It does give you an option under show content. Right now it's very clean. I have only one report in here. I know as a lot of the work that I do at Microsoft, you can end up with 20, 30, 40 different dashboards and reports that are shared with you. It can get
or hundreds. Or
hundreds. Yeah, he's like, oh, Reid, you don't even know. Hundreds, yes. And this allows you to quickly go from all content, my content, or specifically shared with me. So you can quickly slice through that. If you notice shared with me, it empties it out because nothing's been shared with me. My content is the ones that I have created. Yeah, so let me go ahead and see if I can actually potentially get the Power BI app.
So this would be a great time for you guys to ask questions. So what Reid is doing, and you can't see him, we're going to go back to the camera in a second. He's actually bringing up his, what version of iPhone is that?
The 7.
7, he's got his iPhone 7. I could have brought it up with my Galaxy, my Android phone, and it works on Windows Phone as well. But there's actually a player for actually rendering these directly. So you don't have to go to the website, but you can actually download the player that is actually quite a bit more performant. And it offers a lot of features that neither our desktop nor our online version does, like annotation. I don't know, did you know?
Oh, yes. So one of the great features of this is on any single report visual on a dashboard, you can hit a button, which then kind of lets you mark it up, similar to photos or anything else, and then you can save that and then share that with other people. So you can take a screenshot, mark it up with a few notes, and then send it off to a person with a question or just a comment on one of those things.
And they also support augmented reality in the mobile app, where you can go out and take a look at a barcode, and it'll actually overlay the image of that barcode with a particular dashboard. So again, a lot of stuff in the phone application that isn't even in the desktop nor the online version.
I'll show a screen of this, since this just
so
doesn't seem to be pulling
I
up.
can see Reid's phone, and there's a little dot. It's trying to get out. We're actually, what people call it a Microsoft building, but it's also a Faraday cage. A lot of people didn't know that.
You know, I'm a fan of the Faraday cages.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense because we're going to have so many network cables that we're going to be surrounded by copper. I'm still not seeing a lot of questions. So
I will point out and go ahead and do the alerts then. But yeah, if you are curious about the phone features, 29 to 31 of the PDF does go into those. The app is super intuitive, so even if you just dove into it completely unknowing, it's very easy to pick up. And as long as you sign in with the same account onto the app as you do with the desktop or with PowerBI.com, any dashboard you create on there should nearly instantly show up as something to be able to access.
Oh, there is a question. Let's see what's going on.
Cool.
Slack 0000. Is there a way to give shared users edit access apart from creating a new workspace? Without shared users cannot pin visual created by NLQ. I don't know what NLQ is. But to give people edit access, you have to put them in a workspace and actually add them to that workspace.
Or a group, I guess.
Sorry, it is now called an app group.
Well, there's office groups, and then there's the new app group.
Yes.
But yeah, simply said, as long as there are groups made, groups have two types of people who are added to them. There's the readers, and then there's admins. And you can create, and you can set the group to either be edited only by admins or by readers. So if you have, say, a report that maybe has 5 or 6 cooks all editing or making it, or multiple people who might need to add and pin tiles to a dashboard, you can set it up where you can allow certain people permissions to do that. It gets a little tricky. I've often seen them get a bit cluttered, and then people move things around or rearrange stuff thinking it might be their personal one. So I would be wary of just, too many cooks kind of with a bra scenario. But it is fully doable and very easy to do all that.
So great question.
Yeah, great question. So the last thing that I will point out then is the alerts, which is really easy to create, and we're gonna go ahead and make one of those as well too. Another question.
So actually, NLQ is natural language query. So this is actually goes back and says, I want to see something so that I want to give users edit access without being shared. Users cannot pin a visual created by NLQ. A little bit confused as to what you're asking, but regardless, in order for people to edit, it needs to be in a group, and you actually have to add them to that group. So Manuel, again, lots of questions from the same people. A lot of lurkers, I guess. What capabilities and features make Power BI different from other BI tools like Quick? Maybe you're going to be much better than me in this case.
I'm not as familiar with Quick. I'm definitely very familiar with Power BI desktop. In my general opinion, a lot of what makes this really fantastic is it has a lot of shared designs and features of it. If you learn Power Query or the query editor in this, you can apply that back to Excel. I think the usability between the various product platforms is super helpful. Tableau is the one that I know is its biggest competitor. Tableau looks great, but unfortunately, it does not have DAX or Power Query to get to transform the data or to create really awesome unique measures and all of this stuff. So you almost need a separate database administrator a lot of times to polish it up, because you're never handed a perfect data set that's AdventureWorks. Here you go. It's ready to go. Like, no, there's junk data in there. The data might not always play nicely together. There's a lot of stuff you need to go through often as a business intelligence professional. And this kind of offers the end-to-end package. It allows you to get the data, to transform it, to model it, to publish and distribute it, and then share it with their consumers and be able to collaborate in all of that. Where it's just not, a lot of other things have certain features like that, but not everything has all of those features together. And usually at a price that's reasonable. $900 for a Tableau license, And then pro licenses starting at $9 a month. So I think it's easy to use, accessibility, and it's kind of just like a package deal where, again, because that's my job. Like as a BI consultant, I need to be able to do all of those things. I don't want to have to use 7 different tools to do that. If I can use one tool to do it all in one, it saves me a lot of time, cost, and effort.
So we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to summarize what Reid just said is that our primary mission is to enable self-service BI. That means we're going to give you all the tools that you need to actually go out and do a BI solution without needing a bunch of data scientists and other people to help you. So that's our mantra. Do we deliver it against other tools? I would like to think so, but I'm not an expert in other tools. So again, my name is Charles Sterling. I want to thank Jessica Cook for joining us. I want to thank Reid for actually going and taking time out of this day to deliver it. And of course, I want to thank Sandy. I want to thank Manuel. I want to thank Slack 00000 and the rest of the other 50 to 70 people that joined us today. Tomorrow, I'm actually doing, if you're interested in Power Apps, how to deploy and actually scale Power Apps. My name is Charles Sterling, and Jessica, if you want to go ahead and end the session, I will be in your debt. Sorry about the late start, guys.
I will. And just to let you know, next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, May 31st, I'll be hosting a webinar on data storytelling. So if you want to learn a little bit more about telling your stories through Power BI reports and dashboards, tune in next Wednesday. So have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you.